This is what happens when Mother Nature decides to disrupt a football game. In Europe, it is common to snow during the winter season, but in some places it makes a football match simply impossible to happen. Take a look at how this lawn, for example, is completely white. And yes, that's a lot of a hitch, because the snow makes the ball slow down. And things like this can happen here, like this striker must have been angry. If there's a good side to this story, it's that snow serves to cushion the player's fall. But snow is not even close to the worst that can happen in a football game. Imagine you're running in the field when a piece of ice hits you full. That's what happened at the start of the game when it began to rain in the middle of the lawn. In the friendly between Belgium and Tunisia, he had to be suspended in the 23rd minute of the first half. The lawn was covered with rocks and ice. The most interesting thing is that while the players went to the dressing room of the stadium, the fans took advantage of the opportunity to party in the stands. And some even broke into the lawn. After about 40 minutes of interruption, the ball rolled back. Something similar happened in that other game. Everyone had to run out of the lawn because of the falling ice stones. Now it's connected to what happened in that stadium. The wind was so strong that I could barely see the field. I got cold just looking. Some brave fans still stood in the stadium and even made the snowman in the stands. Now, what if a tornado appears in the middle of a game? Take a look at these creepy pictures. More frightening than that is to know that some players have lost their lives because of lightning falling on the lawn. In this game, several players simply lay on the ground. To protect yourself from lightning, during the broadcast of the game, he even gave a listen. But for some reason, the referee did not want to stop the game until a tragedy happened. One of the players was struck by lightning and had to receive emergency treatment. But believe me, even simple things can be a problem. European lawns are full of technology, but none of them can withstand a really heavy rain. Look at the Manchester City Stadium after a rain. The ball can barely roll. In another game in England, the players had that running out of the field to escape from the water until Messi has already gone through a choke. It connects with the flood that was falling in the Barcelona game. And the worst part is that while the ball just doesn't roll straight in the rain, players slip a lot more. Then the game turned into a disaster show. In this El Clasico, the Argentine could not stop shaking because of the rain and the strong wind. After the game, he made a statement saying that it was inhumane to play like this. But when the turf was not so good, things got worse. The striker conceded a goal in the face because the ball stopped in the middle of a mud puddle. This also happened in this game. And the worst thing is that the referee can't do anything because there is no rule for this situation. And while it's not the mud puddles that get in the way, it's the puddles that play the game. It's turned into a mess. That game, for example, had to be cancelled. It is almost impossible to play ball in such conditions. In some places, the puddles were so big that the ball literally floated. But nothing is as unusual as what happened in this game. In the middle of the game, everyone stopped when they heard the loud noise coming from a decommissioned power plant that had been demolished. The whole city, even the players, stopped to watch. At least they were safe. Already these here almost lost their lives because of a simply bizarre window. The game was already being disrupted because several passes and kicks simply went in the other direction because of the wind. Until something worse happened. Yes, you just saw a billboard flying in the middle of the lawn. Imagine if only. Yes, one player had to leave the stadium because if something flew towards the cheerleaders, there could be an even bigger tragedy. Speaking of strong winds, look what happened in this baseball game. One of the organizers was just blown away by the wind. Fortunately, everything went well with him. But in this game, Mother Nature decided to be the protagonist. Look at the gurgling that a very strong wind in the stadium did. Yes, the ball only covered the goalkeeper because it gained speed with the wind. It's connected to this super design. Neither would Sergio Ramos. Worst of all, there were several bids like this in this game, and I feel sorry for the players who must have come to the dressing room full of injuries and bruises. At least they took on the disaster that was happening in the game. Look at the celebration the guys had when they somehow managed to score a goal. Now, it's connected to the crazy situation that happened in this game. The goalkeeper caught the ball and hit the goal, but he just couldn't stop. Yes, it happened because of the strong wind on the lawn. And the worst part is that the situation is so unusual that there is no rule for it. In FIFA's books, the goal was moved by the wind and the players had to put it back in place. The question that remains is, because the judge won't interrupt the game. But that wasn't the only goalkeeper to suffer a window. This one here just put a nozzle in the ball, even with the wind getting in the way. But take a look at what happened. The opposing players didn't even celebrate the goal, even because it was a hooligan. A game has happened under these conditions, but in Brazilian football, something even more bizarre has happened. In order not to have to cancel a game, the organizers of the tournament hired a truck to drain water from the lawn. But I don't think one truck was enough. Look at the situation of the player, who had to charge the corner. Only in this game, the opposite happened. Instead of water coming from heaven, it comes from the ground. How about this? Is it connected to this bubble that formed inside the lawn? Speaking of complicated corners, in this England game, it was impossible to make a penalty. But for some reason, the referee refused to end the game under such conditions, which did not happen in this game. Seeing that the wind was too disturbing, the judge ordered everyone to leave the lawn in case of accident. In this other game, the players couldn't even see the ball, and the game turned into a series of kicks, and rain even hindered the Liberators final. The first game between Boca Juniors and River Plate had to be cancelled because of heavy rains on the spot, and this is quite common in South America. In Brazil, this game had to be interrupted because of a thunderstorm if you call the turf in the second half. But in Brazil, something worse than everything we have seen here has happened. The nation's greatest championship is about to be paralyzed. As a result of a huge disaster, 5 clubs may have been damaged by a super flood that occurred in Rio Grande do Sul. Take a look at how the stadium of one of the biggest clubs in the region is doing. Another stadium in the region that is recovering from the flood has been in these conditions and all this, while the championship is rolling. But the worst is what the players have had to go through to save lives. They are simply going into the flood and helping in any way they can. Diego Costa, who has already had tickets for Atletico Madrid, Chelsea, went with him, own car to rescue the victims. The hero, who has water up to his neck and a lady on his back, is one of the international midfielders. The truth is that these teams' seasons are just over, but that's not the most important thing right now.